Sit down once again, Disney audience. Why not even agree this again? I'm not even your employee. Okay guys, I have tried my best to stay out of this issue, but I cannot any longer. All this go woke, go bro controversy is getting borderline KKK-ish. So the action of Snow White wasn't white, so what? Okay, using CGI instead of little people to portray the dwarves I understand, but casting a non-white actress as a Disney princess is not betraying the source material. Hell, for the record, this is not the first time the character of Snow White has been portrayed as non-white, and no one seemed to give a shit about her race then. Well, okay, bad example, but my point still remains. Bud, I think you should be thanking us. I mean, we finally got Disney to stop making those god-awful live-action remakes. Plus, there's a whole lot more to this Snow White controversy than just Rachel Zegler's skin color, and you damn well know that. I won't deny that Rachel Zegler definitely made the situation worse by talking smack about the original, not to mention the whole Palestine tweet. But the fact still remains that people were whining about her skin color from the moment her casting in the role was announced, and now people are upset because the new actor of Snape in the Harry Potter reboot is black. I mean, seriously, what is happening? What began as a few complaints to unexpected changes to beloved characters in media is now seeming to turn into outright protests for segregation in media. And what's really got me upset is Disney has now canceled their Disney Plus spin-off of Tiana. Now, I don't work at Disney, so I can't know the full reason for why it was canceled, but given it happened around the exact same time all this started going down, I don't think it was just a coincidence. Well, with everything that's been going on right now, it's clear that a review of a pro-DEI work that the majority of people like is in order. I tried a more subtle approach to that with Owl House about a year ago, which was more of a satire on those issues, but with everything that's been going down these last few months, in the words of Ann Boone Choi,
slow and steady ain't gonna cut it.
So I've decided that a more direct approach to confronting this problem is in order, and that more direct approach is called Hairspray. New Line Cinema. What? This whole go woke, go broke stuff is mainly with Disney. Both Hairspray movies are with New Line Cinema. Well, Disney and New Line Cinema both made movies of Pinocchio, so it's more or less the same bandwagon. But to make doubly sure you do not fail to understand the message, I will bring back your hearts in this. No, I'm just kidding. But this time, I have backup to help me deliver this message. So please put your hands together for Thomas Murray of Murray Reactions.
It's been a while, guys, but for this one, I hope you're ready to keep up with the beat, because things are about to get wild in these films.
Okay, guys, so what do you say Thomas and I catch any of you newcomers up with the rhythm of what Hairspray is all about?
Both movies revolve around a teen growing up in 1960s Baltimore named Tracy Turnblad, a gold-hearted gal in a town where almost everyone but her friend Penny, her folk, and the host of her favorite dance show, Corny Collins, are racist condescending assholes who detest integration and try to find any way they can to stop it. Such as the teachers putting the non-white kids in special ed class for quote-unquote poor performance. And when Tracy's attempts to stand up for them lands her in the same boat, she really connects with them and decides to push even further for integration.
And sure enough, her chance comes when she lands a role on the Corny Collins show after impressing Mr. Collins himself at an audition and sees this as a golden opportunity to speak up for her oppressed new friends. But as you can imagine, this doesn't go as smooth as she hoped, as the station manager Velma Von Tessel and her daughter Amber feel that not only will Tracy steal Amber's spotlight, but also feel her progressive, woke attitude will bring an even bigger threat to their already threatened segregated status quo.
So the malicious mother-daughter duo do all they can to taint the image of integration in Tracy, stooping even lower than you might expect. But despite all the adversity, Tracy and her friends stay strong and eventually get the studio to be fully integrated, with both films doing it in a unique way. We'll cover that in the best story round.
The relationship of these movies is very much like the two film versions of Little Shop of Horrors and the producers. The first film version was a non-musical original movie that got adapted into a Broadway musical years later, and that Broadway musical got adapted into a movie, bringing it around full circle. While it's far from the best musical I've seen, Hairspray is still a pretty decent showstopper with some catchy tunes and being a real testament to the effect of standing up for your beliefs and how pointless racial discrimination is. I've actually been meaning to do an old versus new of the story for many years now, I just never quite got around to it. With everything that's going on in Hollywood right now, I think this is the perfect time to finally do that review.
And on a side note, both films are some of the better works each director has turned out. I mean, the original 1988 version was from director John Waters, and he's known for some of the most outlandish films in cinema, like Pink Flamingos and Serial Mom.
Not to mention the 2007 version is from director Adam Shankman, the director behind movies like The Pacifier. Really shows you can't judge a film by its director. So let's put on your dancing shoes as we take a look at old versus new Hairspray.
You can't stop the beat. 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 You can't stop the beat.
Starting off, we got the girl whose drive for dream brought the push for change in Baltimore.
And man, does she go far on that drive. As for who did it best, this is Best Tracy Turnblad.
You can't stop the beat. 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 You can't stop the beat.
Played by Ricki Lake and Nikki Blonsky respectively, Tracy starts out as the quintessential local girl that most people just find an obnoxious overweight soapbox speaker whose only place is detention or the special ed class, but once finally given her chance in the spotlight, she's able to prove how easy it is to love her, and how to love other people even if they're different than us.
True, this teen honestly made a quicker impact on our entire town than Martin Luther King did in a year with her charm in both versions. And it's easy to see why. Both Tracys really do have a lot of spunk and charisma, also enormous and open-minded hearts.
But if we had to make a choice, we're gonna have to go with Nikki Blonsky's performance. This girl made it impossible to hate Tracy, even if you're a Von Tussle. She just had such an awesome and optimistic perspective on life, even when dealing with the constant fat shaming and living in a predominantly racist town. Just her opening song, Good Morning Baltimore, establishes how she just has that
just unstopped optimistic spirit,
and how she does still love her life and has dreams, even welcoming the encouragement of the rats on the streets.
The rats on the street all dance around my feet. They seem to say, Tracy, it's up to you.
Not saying that Ricki didn't do a good job in the original, but she didn't quite match Nikki's energy or optimism, and honestly didn't feel as friendly. She was still a nice teen overall, but she wasn't as progressive in other areas as she was with her social integration. Like in this version, she's pretty willingly using the R word for special needs people.
Yeah, we don't care if it was acceptable in the 1960s. Being racist was too, but that didn't make it right. Dad, she felt a bit more mean-spirited in general, even when protesting segregation.
Stuck-up little spastic. She's such a queer. Luckily, I've never been cursed with acne, like others.
Even though Remix Tracy was not above trash talking sometimes as well, but they didn't feel as frequent. And overall, she had a much more Gandhi-like approach to welcoming integration.
Would you swim in an integrated pool?
I'm all for integration. It's the new frontier. If I can't dance with seaweed in Little Inez, then I don't want to dance on TV at all. I just want tomorrow to be better.
Plus, there were a lot more scenes of her going the extra mile for those she cared about. A big example of this is when she got her mom to leave the house allegedly since 1951 in order to get her to...
Welcome to 16!
Or how about the scene with Seaweed? Before she even goes on the dance floor, she goes over to Seaweed to see if he wanted to dance with her to get on the show. And despite him turning down the offer, Tracy asked Seaweed if it was okay to do his dance. Really shows that she really cares for her friends, as she was willing to share the spotlight.
But I think what really sold the deal is, we'll go more into the details of this a bit later, but even though Tracy's banned from attending the pageant in the third act and there are cops guarding the entrance, she actually manages to trick those cops into carrying her into the studio themselves by hiding in the hairspray canteen they were using as a battering ram when they thought she had snuck in and locked them out. That's just epic. So with the patience of a saint and the bond she had with her family and friends, it's safe to say that Nikki takes the crown for Best Tracy Turnblad.
Point goes to the new.
Stuck-up little spastic.
When it comes to dancing, it usually takes two to tango, and both films offer a variety of interesting dance partners to choose from.
And Tracy makes a really good choice in the show's heartthrob, Link Larkin, as does Penny with the wisecracking underdog talent, Seaweed Stubbs. And both films have some of the best guys playing the role.
But it's time to put both pairs of significant others to the test for the best, as we take a look at Best Romantic Leads.
You can't stop the beat. 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 You can't stop the beat.
Starting off with Tracy's significant other, Link is the top male dancer of the Coin and Collins show, played by Michael St. Gerard in the original, and Zac Efron in the musical. Both of them are no strangers to musicals.
Unlike with Tracy, this one was not as difficult. Zac Efron definitely makes for the better Link. One, it's kind of hard to compete with Efron in the romantic musical male lead department, but that aside, Efron's Link just seemed to have more of a connection with Tracy.
No kidding. Like, comparing the scene where Tracy gets attention to both films, in the original, Link just sits by and does nothing. But in the remake, not only does he stick up for Tracy when Amber was smack-talking her, but even goes as far as badmouth the teacher to also join Tracy in detention.
St. Gerard's Link had decent chemistry with Tracy, sure, but looking back at it, he honestly didn't do a whole lot. Granted, this may have been in part because he was hospitalized in the climax, but the new Link overall just had a more active and dramatic role in the story. Like when Negro Day was cancelled and Tracy proposes they resort to civil disobedience, Link tells Tracy that he can't join her because it would almost certainly be suicidal to his career, and he doesn't phrase it in the best way to Tracy.
I just think this adventure's a little too big for me. Oh god, no, that's not what
I get it, Link.
Yeah, it's another third act breakup, but it still works well here because it's an effective emotional debate between friends versus careers. Plus, he still shows he cares, as when Tracy is in hiding after assaulting the cop, he actually goes to her house to try to look for her. He even expresses regret to Edna about bailing out on Tracy, and then to the audience via the song Without Love.
Never looked inside myself, though on the outside, I looked good.
Being willing to change throughout the film really shows how Zack made the better Link. But of course, he's not the only significant other in this story.
True, that would be Penny's love interest, Seaweed Stuff, the son of local R&B producer, Maybelle Monomouth Stuff, who was played by Clayton Prince in the original and Elijah Kelly in the musical.
Yeah, Seaweed really helps Tracy on the path for supporting racial integration after meeting her in special ed class, and by providing comic relief as the cynical but lovable smartass of the story.
Being invited places by colored people feels so handful.
I'm glad y'all feel that way, cause not many people do.
As for who did Seaweed's character the best, we have to give it to Elijah in the musical, as he made more of an impact, as mentioned in the previous round, by giving permission for Tracy to do his dance to get on the show.
He also felt slightly more supportive to Penny. Sure, the original may have pried the bars off of Penny's window when she's under house arrest, but he didn't feel quite as empowered when rescuing her. You kind of get the vibe more so that they both saved each other. The one in the remake definitely felt more like a knight in shining armor there to rescue the princess from the tower, if you get our drift. Ordinarily, I'm all for feminism, but here it really gives him a chance to shine for his new girlfriend.
He also plays a big part in Tracy's grand scheme to infiltrate the TV studio for the Miss Hairspray. There was a pretty awesome scene in the original, though, where he stood up for his sister when they were denied entry for preteen day.
You mean you're gonna turn this little girl away?
Look, I don't make the rules, alright?
I don't recall the one in the remake standing up for his sister quite as firmly.
But nonetheless, even though both significant others were definitely loyal significant others to Tracy and Penny in both versions, the one in the remake seemed to have more prominence in the story and also slightly better personalities. So we, the judges, have to give another point to the remake for that.
Point goes to the new.
I think we better get going now. The coast looks clear.
But even though progressivism really was making real progress around the time this story was set in 1962, this story also reminds us that there are still sadly some people who will never accept anything beyond their own personal beliefs and will do anything to keep things from changing.
True, and this family really goes above and beyond to make sure that everyone follows what they think is right.
That is indeed true, but this is best established with the matriarch of the family. So let's see who went the furthest with their actions with Best Villain.
You can't stop the beat. 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 You can't stop the beat.
The Von Tussles are the stereotypical rich asshole family of Baltimore, but while they're all jerks, we feel Velma's the most prominent among them, and thus the true big bad of the story. Amber and her dad will stay for the supporting cast round. Anyway, Velma's the manager of the studio that hosts the Corny Collins show, which allows her to put her daughter Amber as one of the leading dancers.
That has to be the biggest case of nepotism I've ever seen in a musical ever. Even if Amber is admittedly pretty musically gifted. Anyway, despite being shown progressivism herself, being a TV station manager as a woman in the 60s, she can't return the favor and show acceptance towards non-white people.
Yeah, as racist as most of her managerial cohorts are, it's clear that to her, integration is the filthiest word in the English language and wants to do everything she can to keep her studio nice and segregated, as well as her amusement park that she and her husband own in the original Tilted Acres. Kinda sounds like the average filmgoer today if you ask me.
Or a certain president's recent actions.
But even though both depictions are racist biatches, Michelle Pfeiffer's portrayal is vastly superior in our opinion. Remember how in my review of Murder on the Orient Express, how I criticized how her portrayal of Miss Hubbard felt more like an entitled teenage girl than a woman hardened by... Well, I don't want to go into spoilers here. Well, that sense of entitlement she gave off there works perfectly for this role as a slimy white supremacist.
You know what your demographic is? Cleaning ladies and lawn jockeys. Detroit Sound? What's that, the cries of people being mugged? Yeah, their kids corny. That's why we have to steer them in the right direction.
Right direction?
Didn't I say that?
Another thing that makes her more of a legit threat is that she feels a lot more like a seductress than the original. That's why she's so persuasive with everyone in the studio. You can feel that influence over everyone more. Like, whereas she failed to get Tracy's audition disproved in the original, Pfeiffer's version succeeded, only failing because one of the other contestants had to go on leave, and they needed a spot to fill. Hell, even flat out admits in her villain song Miss Baltimore Crab that she won beauty pageants by screwing the judges. We thought this was a family musical.
But what's almost as bad is she also tries to use her seductress powers on Tracy's dad Wilbur to break up her parents for no apparent reason other than to be a bitch. Granted, it didn't work on Wilbur, but still, the original Vilma was definitely entitled and not necessarily unattractive, but I couldn't really see her being able to use seduction to get through life. Michelle Pfeiffer is, well, there's a good reason she's Yakko Warner's favorite chick in his long line of women he's into. Yeah, I don't think she really needed to screw the judges to have been crowned Miss Baltimore Crabs.
Hello, Miss!
Not that the original Velma didn't have some bomb moments too, though. Like, she was literally planning to bomb the event if her daughter didn't win. Man, not being a sore loser. And this version almost felt a bit more like a stage mom. Like, comparing the scene where she's talking to her daughter when she's depressed, whereas Pfeiffer was comforting and promised to deal with the competition, Debbie Harry in the original pretty much said get over it, I need you for publicity. And went into full drill sergeant mode when giving choreograph lessons to her daughter.
Practice makes perfect. I ought to know. Mashed potatoes? Faster!
But I think what really sells it with the remakes Velma is she literally has Negro Day pulled from the Courtney Collins show, mostly just to spite Tracy for outshining Amber. Yeah, trying to break up her parents wasn't enough, she had to go and put dozens of people out of work just to have her vengeance as well.
No kidding. I think it's safe to say that with that level of pettiness and her willingness to ruin lives to get ahead, makes Michelle's version the best villain of Hairspray.
Point goes to the new.
Don't be ridiculous.
Let me show you how your mommy dad took out the competition.
But even with all the talent in the world, you can't change a racist system all by yourself, especially with the Von Tessels at the helm.
Luckily for Tracy, she has some of the greatest people in Baltimore to help her when she can't do it on her own.
But let's see who did it best and gave the most support with Best Supporting Cast.
You can't stop the beat. 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 You can't stop the beat.
Man, I have to say, there are some great characters in both films. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with Tracy's parents. Her mom Edna is played by Harris Milstead, aka Divine, aka the inspiration for the design of Ursula in the original, in their final film role before their death, and by legendary ham John Travolta in the remake. For the record, it's traditional from the musical to cross-cast this character. Anyway, much as we both love Travolta, and he does give a hilarious performance here, we both feel the original Edna was a bit more open-minded and supportive towards her daughter. Travolta was honestly kind of an obnoxious worrywart. Like, she initially didn't want Tracy going to the audition, fearing a fat girl like her was only destined for laundry duties like herself. Granted, this did give Tracy a chance to shine by getting her to come out of her shell with the classic song Welcome to the 60s, but it didn't feel like that message sticked as much. Like, just when it seemed like she was starting to lighten up, she was all set to drag Tracy home when she was hanging out with her new friends, only staying after being bribed with food. And she was also pretty quick to accuse Wilbur of cheating on her based on relatively little evidence.
The original Edna was a lot more supportive and spontaneous. Like, she seemed to absolutely relish the idea of being Tracy's manager. And when Velma made a snide remark about her daughter, she immediately proceeded to beat the crap out of her. Mama Bear much? When it comes to Tracy's dad, Wilbur, though, played by Jerry Stiller and Christopher Walken, respectively, you gotta give an edge to Walken. He definitely felt a lot more supportive towards his wife's daughters, such as when he actively encouraged his daughter to go for it with the audition. Well, Edna had cold feet about it. Or when his wife thinks he cheated on her with Velma, he proves his innocence with a full-on Fred Astaire-esque dance number. 1, that's a definite deduction. And 2, who knew Christopher Walken could sing like that?
a twist or a waltz. It's all the same schmaltz with just a change in the scenery.
What about Tracy's bestie, Penny? Both are delightfully adorable and undyingly loyal to Tracy, but we feel the original played by Leslie Ann Powers was a bit more adorable than Amanda Bynes, and a bit closer with her friends. Like, she seemed noticeably more excited to have Tracy's parents see her on TV for the first time. Not to mention, she actually stands up to her racist parents with their disapproval of her relationship with Seaweed and pretty much elopes with him. Speaking of Penny's racist mom Prudy, both are massive bigots and overprotective worrywarts, but the original definitely takes the cake, not only being scared shitless by the mere sight of black people, but when she finds out that her daughter's in an interracial relationship, she literally has her bedroom door and window barred and tries to have her subject to hypno and aversion therapy to cure her of her unnatural desires.
Police brutality! Police brutality!
Negroes. Black boys.
What about Motormouth Mabel? Both versions nailed the sassy black woman archetype of the character, but Queen Latifah's version definitely had more heart to her. After all, she did help Edna learn to love herself for who she is in Big, Bold, and Beautiful.
But when it comes to Velma's daughter Amber, the original felt a bit more naturally vicious.
Fat retard!
Corny Collins I think we gotta call tie with. The one in the remake played by Jason Marsden may have been a lot more vocally supportive towards Tracy's pro-integration cause, but the one in the original did get a pretty awesome scene where he puts Amber in her place by suspending her from the show for the day after some exceptionally harsh trash talking towards Tracy. So epic to see someone finally put that brat in her place. Well, that's about it for all the major supporting characters, and it may seem like a tie for what we've offered so far, but what breaks the tie for us in this case is the original has more characters, and they honestly do help strengthen the story. Like, the school staff seems noticeably more cruel and sadistic in this version, especially the smug school principal who's absent in the musical.
Plus, a lot of the antagonists have lackeys, not just with Velma and Prudy's husbands, who are just as racist as they are. But that racist psychologist Prudy's hired was just as nuts. He was definitely the insane one, not Penny. Not to mention the studio security guard who flat out admits he doesn't care about the new integration law, and still wouldn't let Inez and Seaweed into the studio for preteen day.
But not all of the additional supporting characters in the original are on the villain side. We still got some that are useful to our heroes, like that club of beatniks at the gang visits who were absent in the remake. They were pretty funny. But honestly, what sells it for us with the original is that there's a council member of the show besides Corny who's white, yet fully supportive to integration, namely this chick called Tammy. Granted, she wasn't a huge character, and I get why she was dropped from the musical, but it was still nice to see someone besides Corny on that show who's not a racist asshole. Not to mention, she also tried to put Amber in her place and calm things down during the riot at the theme park, albeit both unsuccessfully, but points for trying.
Again, it's largely a tie among the major side characters of the story, but since the original had a bigger cast of smaller side characters that still contribute a great deal to the story, the only one barely takes home the gold here. Point goes the old.
Has fame gone to your head and made you wacky?
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to judge the encore of this almost live, not real music festival. Or rather, parody of such with our comparison of these two stories about live dancing. You ready for the best story round, Thomas?
Just about ready to see which story ends in a bigger bang. One story, quite literally. Here comes that story.
You can't stop the beat. 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 You can't stop the beat.
While pro-integration movies were absolutely nothing new at the time the original Hairspray came out in 1988, it's not hard to see why this is one of the most beloved examples of it, even in the times we're living right now. The protagonists are quirky and fun, the antagonists are despicable but still enjoyably over the top, the atmosphere can be playful and energetic during the high moments, but not afraid to sugarcoat the harsh racism of the time, and can pull off some cliched sad moments still relatively effectively.
But looking back at both movies overall, we can kind of see why the 2007 musical is better known than the original 1988 movie. They just have a bit more to offer story-wise.
It's true that the racism is probably a bit crueler in the original. Harsh as it was in the remake, it is beyond cruel here. Hell, just look at some of the signs of the anti-white integration protesters at Tilted Acres. Speaking of which, let's compare the scenes that led to Tracy getting arrested. In the 2007 film, she and Motormouth Mabel are leading a peaceful protest march to the studio, but Tracy becomes a fugitive after bumping one of the cops in the head with her picket sign after he ignores them. No, it was not the gruesome bloody assault the media was calling it, but it was still inflicting harm on a police officer, which is against the law, and Tracy really should have known better than to do.
Now look at the original. In that version, Tracy's happily showing off her new dance for the crowd, when a white protester throws a smoke bomb that causes the place to break out into a total riot. And Tracy is wrongly accused by the police as the one who caused the riot, even though they have no evidence at all, and are despised against her for her woke agenda. Definitely a great example of wrongful arrests and police brutality at the time.
But again, the remake overall just had more to offer, and everything just felt slightly more built up. Like, whereas the original opens right when Tracy and Penny are watching the Corny Collins show at home, the remake takes more time to introduce us to Tracy and showcase how she is a misfit, yet still an optimistic dreamer. Not to mention more drama, like Tracy initially being rejected for the show and having to work to get Corny to reconsider. That's a much more exciting first act.
It also had more emotions at stake for a lot of the characters throughout, like Link turning chicken on Tracy for DEI cause and regretting it. Wilbur being framed by Velma for cheating on Edna, the whole issue with Negro Day being cancelled, and having the fight to try to bring it back and more.
The original was good, but it didn't have quite as many emotional stakes as the remake, so it wasn't quite as engaging. And of course, the musical numbers really do a service to the story. Like I've said in the past, being a musical won't automatically guarantee a superior picture, but can still turn out one more times than not, and this is an example of such. All the songs really help towards the story, like Good Morning Baltimore and Miss Baltimore Crabs introducing us to our hero and villainess, Welcome to the 60s and I Know Where You've Been being the uplifting feel-good songs, and Without Love being the emotional jerk realization / romance song, and even the rest of the songs that don't really serve a plot-relevant purpose are still fun songs to listen to. And of course there's the ending, which may be the biggest difference in both works.
No kidding, it's really interesting towards the end that it's really choosing which ending that you prefer for the characters. In the original, Tracy wins the vote at the Miss Auto Show 1963 pageant, but Velma, secretly racist superior, says that she's been disqualified for the race ride at the theme park, making Amber the new queen.
Though Amber's on top of the world with her win, Tracy shows up after Maybelle and Little Inez were able to persuade the governor to let her off the hook, and is able to show her new dance, The Bug. And it's a happy ending all around. The audience loves the song, Corey announces the Corny Collins show is now fully integrated, and the Von Tussel's plan goes up in flames as the bomb goes off and the only ones hurt are Velma and Amber. Yes, the ending is crazy and heartwarming, but it's also a tad predictable. I mean, how many times have we not seen the contestant not eligible for not being there, but then they show up and win at the last minute scenario ending?
The remake's ending is a lot more clever. Like said before, Tracy is banned for the pageant with the studio heavily got her under Velma's watch, but she manages to outsmart the coppers and sneak in the dance with Link. And although the audience love her, she's not the one who wins.
Nope, as for the You Can't Stop the Beat number, Link brings Little Nez on stage to dance for the audience and she completely kills it, bringing a massive late voting surge, and thus she secures the title as Miss Hairspray, thus giving her the role as main dancer on the show and indirectly allowing for the integration of such. This works better to us because not only does it give a happy ending for really everyone, but it also directly ties to the idea of integration to the studio. And the original was pretty much, Tracy wins and she likes integration, so that's what we're gonna do. I think it's more meaningful here that the show is integrated because the African American community was given their chance to prove they had the moves and thus earned their spot on the show.
Not to mention, the look on Velma's face when a black girl wins is freaking hilarious. Especially when her whining to Amber about how she rigged the vote in her favor gets caught on live camera, that exposing her for the monster she is, and getting fired as the manager. Karma is a bitch, ain't it?
Yes it is, Thomas. And again, the original is still a fun movie as well, and does a good job at executing its message, but we just feel the remake did the message a bit better, while also enhancing other parts of the story and giving a satisfying conclusion and happy ending for everyone.
Well, except for Velma, who is out of a job now. But considering what she did throughout the movie, she had it coming.
Point trophy for Miss Best Hairspray Movie, go to the new, complete with a bouquet of flowers. Throw 'em up, Thomas.
Sorry, man. I think all the hairspray in the air around here killed them.
Oops. Well, as I like to say, the best kind of flowers are usually found in the attic. Cut to a sore loser clip.
He's violating the oath of the friendship ring!